going to spend one more day on solving with substitution. I already uploaded a video explaining certain questions. We're going to do a couple more on this second video. Number 2, a lot of people get confused with this one. It's really easy because step 1 on substitution is pick an equation and get a variable by itself. We could see that the top equation already has a variable by itself. So second step would be to take that algebraic expression that x equals and plug it into the equation you have not used. And we're going to be plugging it into x because it says x equals. If it would say y equals, we'd be plugging into y, but it says x equals this stuff, so we're plugging that stuff into x. So if I plug it into x, it's going to read 3 times x, but I'm going to put parentheses instead, and inside those parentheses I'm going to plug in the 3y. And then of course I still have everything else, the minus 5y, the equals, and the 12. So after you substitute, you're supposed to simplify, which means distributive property and combining like terms. Now there is no distributive property, but there is multiplication. 3 times 3y, distributive property is multiplication after all. 3 times 3y is 9y. So we have a 9y right here. We have the minus 5y and the equals 12. And of course, we could combine like terms here. 9y, take away 5y. Just do that in your head. That's 4y, which equals 12, which means to get rid of that 4, you divide by 4, and y equals 3. Did I go through that too fast? Okay, so y equals 3, that's one of our answers. And whenever we have one answer and we want the other, we plug it in and just solve for the other. And you could do it to the top equation or to the bottom equation, it doesn't matter. Let's plug it into the top equation, it looks a little easier. So I'm going to rewrite the top equation. It reads x equals 3y. But instead of y, I put parentheses. Because I know that y equals 3, so I'm going to take that 3 and plug it right in there into the parentheses. So what does x equal? X equals 3 times 3, which is x equals 9. So we have our two answers right there. X equals 9, y equals 3. On the Quiz Friday, we are having a Quiz Friday. I would like you to write your answer in coordinate format. It's really easy to grade if you just write it as a coordinate format. Your x value is 9, your y value is 3. If you happen to put 3, 9, I'm going to have to mark it wrong. I guess I could give you half credit, but you need to know that the x value always goes first, the y value goes second. If you were to have graphed this, it would intersect at the coordinate 9, 3. Let's move on to the next one. Number 3 is also an easy one to do. Same concept. If you pick an equation and get a variable by itself, both of them already have a variable by itself, right? So I'm going to take this top equation, which already has x by itself, and I'm going to plug in what x equals, this variable expression right here, I'm going to plug it in to the x of the other equation. So I'm circling, I'm drawing arrows, I'm plugging it right into that x. So my new equation is going to read x equals y plus 4. Okay, now instead of x, I'm actually going to plug in that 2y plus 7. Now, I always substitute with parentheses. But as you can see, there's nothing on the outside of the parentheses to distribute. So right there, parentheses are completely unnecessary, right? I would say use the parentheses, and if there's nothing to do, then just erase the parentheses. So let me rewrite this without parentheses. 2y plus 7 equals y plus 4. Now, whenever I solve an equation, I try to simplify it first. I try to do a distributive property or combining like terms, but there is no distributive property. There is no combining like terms. So I could jump to the solving part, which is getting y by itself on one side of the equal sign. Where's the y at? The left side of the equal sign or the right side of the equal sign? It's on both. You don't want it on both sides. So let's get rid of one of them. Let's first get rid of the y on the right side. Since you don't have, it's really easy to get rid of this y. Just subtract it, right? It'll cancel out. What you do to one side, do to the other. And that's really easy to do also. 2y, take away 1y. That's simply 1y. You don't have to put the 1. You could just leave it y. And let me rewrite everything also. Plus 7 equals 4. So the thing to remember here from semester 1, guys, is if you're trying to get rid of something, you do the opposite, right? So I didn't want this y, I did the opposite of y, which is negative y. And what you do to one side, do to the other. Right here, I don't want this 7. So you get rid of the 7 by subtracting 7, right? Minus 7. So minus 7 here, that'll cancel it out. What I do to one side, I do to the other. Minus 7 over there. And now I could see that my answer is going to be what? Y equals -3. Perfect. That is one answer. I need my other answer. Anytime we have one answer and we need the other, you simply plug it back into any equation you want of the original system. So I'm going to plug it into the bottom one. Seems really easy. I mean, you could do the top. It doesn't matter. You'll get the same answer. Let me rewrite the bottom equation. It seems easier. So x equals y plus 4. That's what it says. X equals y plus 4. X equals y plus 4. But instead of y, I put parentheses because I already know that y is -3. So I'm going to plug in this -3. I'm going to plug it in right into this parenthesis. Simple math problem. X equals -3 plus 4. That means that the answer is x equals 1. If you owe $3 and you have $4, you're going to have $1 left over. So there's your x value. You already found your y value on your quiz Friday. I want you to write it in a coordinate format. X first, 1, comma, -3. Now, of course, if you finish your quiz early on Friday and you have leftover time, take the x value of 1, plug it into the x. Take the y value of -3, plug it into the y. See if it gives you a true statement both on top and on bottom. X right here, y right here. See if it gives you a true statement. And that way you could double check and be absolutely positive that you're going to get an A+ on your quiz Friday. Okay. So on the other video, I explained, I think, 4 through 8. So let's jump to number 9. This one's a little more interesting. So again, step 1 on solving with substitution is to pick an equation and get a variable by itself. So there's many roads to the same place. You could think about it and see which road is quicker. Which equation would you like to pick, the top one or the bottom one? Top, okay. I would have gone with the bottom because -16 is a little bit smaller or easier to deal with than 36, but that's fine. So if you want to go with the top one, would you like to get the x by itself or the y by itself? X is obviously your better option, right? So let's get the x by itself. Like I said, normally I would have picked the bottom one because I liked 16 instead of 36. But since you guys said the top one, I'm going to go with the top one this time, okay? So let's get x by itself by adding 5y. So I'm going to just write really tiny right here, plus 5y, plus 5y. That way I could get a new equation up on top. And the new equation is going to read x equals, because this canceled out, right? 36 plus 5y, but I'm going to write it with the order switch of 5y, positive 5y plus 36. So there's my new top equation. It's the same equation as the first original top one, but I've solved for x. That was step 1 of solving by substitution. Now you're going to take this variable expression and plug it into the equation you have not used. We have not used the bottom equation, so I'm going to plug it right into here, into my bottom equation, into the x position. So if I do plug it into that x position, I'm going to rewrite it down here. 2x plus y equals -16. Now instead of the x, I'm going to plug in what x is, which is 5y plus 36. So let me plug that in right here, 5y plus 36. So when you substitute like this, you end up changing to a single variable equation. This is really easy to do now. All you have to do is focus in on this equation and simplify it, distributive property, combine like terms, and then worry about getting y by itself. So let's distribute 2 times 5y, that's 10y, 2 times 36. You could use a calculator, that'll be 72. Bring down the plus y, and I'm not even going to bring down the rest because after distributive property, I could combine like terms, and I see that there's a y right here and a y right there. 10 y's plus 1 y, that's going to be a total of 11 y's. Now I'm going to rewrite everything. The plus 72, bring down the equal sign, bring down the minus 16. Now let's worry about getting y by itself. So I don't want the plus 72, so we're going to do the opposite of adding 72, subtracting 72. What you do to one side, you do to the other, subtract 72. We're going to end up with 11y left over on the left side, this right, that just comes down. The equal sign also comes down, so 11y equals -88. You owe somebody $16, and then you owe somebody $72, you owe a total of $88. So final step would be to get rid of the multiplication of 11 right in front of y, divide by 11, divide by 11, And again, if you're confused with multiplying or dividing, just use a calculator. Y equals -8. So that is one answer. This one obviously required more work than the other ones we've done. We need to find the other answer. Let's plug in that value back into any original equation, top or bottom. What do you guys say, top or bottom? Bottom, okay. So 2x plus y equals -16. Again, I just rewrote the bottom one because you guys told me we're going to use the bottom one. And instead of y, I put parentheses because y really equals -8. So let me take that -8 and put it right in there, -8. Now let's solve this thing. Now notice that there's nothing to multiply in front of the parentheses, nothing to distribute. So you don't even need the parentheses. I'm going to rewrite it. 2x plus -8, or you could just put -8 equals -16. So for my final two steps, I'm going to get rid of the -8 by doing the opposite, +8. What you do to one side, you do to the other. Rewrite what you have left over. We have a 2x, we have an equals, we have a -8. If you owe $16 and you have $8, you're still going to owe $8. For my final step, I'm going to divide by 2, which means x equals -4. So there's your solution. And the way to write that solution on your answer sheet on Friday would be to put in coordinate format. X is -4, so -4 goes first. Y is -8, so you put that second. Now, if you had time left over on the quiz, plug in both x and y values. Plug in both x and y values right here and see if it gives you 36. Plug in the -4 right here and the -8 right there, see if it gives you -16, which it will. That way you can be absolutely positive that you have the right answers. I wouldn't double check till the very end though, just in case you're running out of time. Okay, I guess let's continue on. Number 10. Which equation would be easier to pick to get a variable by itself? The top equation or the bottom equation? Bottom would be easier. Now, which variable would be easier to solve from the bottom one? Would it be easier to get y by itself or x by itself? X. All right, so let's get x by itself. We're going to do the opposite, subtract 6y. What you do to one side, do to the other, subtract 6y. We are going to have x equals, what do we have here? 18, take away 6y. You can't do it. Let me rewrite it. -6y with a positive 18. Always write your variable term first. So there's your bottom equation rewritten with x by itself. That was step one on solving with substitution. Then you take that variable expression, that x equals, and plug it into the equation you have not used, into the x, because we decided to solve for x. If we would have solved for y and had a y equals, we'd be plugging into y. But we solved for x, so we're plugging this into x. So my new equation over here on the side will be 2x, but instead of x, I'm going to put parentheses, minus 3y equals -24. Now inside those parentheses, I'm plugging in the x value, -6y plus 18. And all I have to do now is zoom in and solve. Again, solving, you do simplifying first, which is distributive property. 2 times -6y, it's -12y. 2 times 18, that's positive 36. And let me rewrite the rest. I'm going to bring down the minus 3y. I'm not even going to rewrite the whole entire equation. I'm still simplifying the left side, so I'm just going to worry about the left side right now. After distributive property, we do combining like terms. If you owe somebody $12 and you owe them $3 more, you're going to owe them a total of 15 of those dollars. In this case, Y's, not dollars. We still have the plus 36. Now let's rewrite everything. Let's bring down the equal sign, bring down the minus 24. Now this looks pretty weird because I have big numbers, but let's continue. I want to get y by itself on the left side of this equal sign. So let's get rid of the 36 first by doing minus 36. Minus 36. And if you don't see it, do it on a calculator. -24 minus 36. You owe $24. You owe $36. You're going to owe a total of $60. Let me do it in black here. Owe 60. Equals, and what's left on the left side, this -15y, you're just going to rewrite it. So for your final step here, you need to get rid of that -15 that's being multiplied by y, right? That's really -15 times y. So let's get rid of that -15 by doing the opposite. dividing by negative 15. Right? The opposite of multiplying by negative 15 is dividing by negative 15. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. So y equals, again, with the calculator, and you have to type in those negatives. Negative 60 divided by negative 15. Negative divided by negative is positive. And you will get 4 as an answer. So y equals 4. And if you didn't do it exactly the same way I did, that's fine. There's many roads to the same place, especially on this section of math. So we have one answer. Let's take that answer and plug it in either to the top or to the bottom to find the other. Which one do you guys want to use? Top or bottom of the original? Bottom. So let me rewrite the bottom. X plus 6y, but I'm putting parentheses instead of y, equals 18. Now I already know that y equals 4. That's why I left parentheses there to put a 4 right in here. So I really have x plus 24, because 6 times 4 is 24, equals 18. To get rid of the 24, I subtract 24. Subtract 24. So my final answer will be x is left over on the left side equals 18, take away 24 is negative 6. So on your answer sheet, put in coordinate format, negative 6, comma, 4. Okay, guys, there's only a few questions left, and I think I might do a third video just focusing in on these ones with decimals and the ones with the fractions. A lot of people freak out with decimals or fractions. It's really easy, but I'll do that on a separate video. Let's jump to number 18. That one doesn't have decimals or fractions. Again, the decimal or fraction one I'll do on a separate video. So number 18, which equation would you like to pick? Top or bottom? Bottom? Now, top is better, right? If you say bottom and you say, oh, I want to get x by itself, you'd have to subtract 6y and then divide by 2. But the top one, if you decide to get x by itself, you subtract 3y and that's it. So let's pick the top one and subtract 3y. Subtract 3y. My new equation on top will read, see, there's only an x left over now. X equals, so let me write that. X equals, and this stuff right here, I can't really do it, so I'm just going to rewrite it. X equals negative 3y minus 4. So that's my top equation, exactly the way it is, exactly the same equation as the original, but the only thing is that I solved for x. I made it look different. I got x by itself. So now I'm going to take this algebraic expression, negative 3y minus 4, and plug it into the other equation. Into what letter? X or Y? X. Into X. So I want to plug it in over here into the other equation into X. And when I rewrite that bottom equation, it's going to read 2x, but instead of x, I put parentheses, plus 6y equals 5. So when I plug in the negative 3y minus 4, I now have a single variable equation that I could simplify and solve. Once again, zoom in, do distributive property first. 2 times negative 3y, that's negative 6y. 2 times negative 4, that's negative 8. Bring down the plus 6y. And let's now, after distributive property, let's combine like terms. So we're going to combine the negative 6y with the plus 6y, and what happens? It cancels out. So that's weird. What's left over? The equal sign's still here. On the left side, you just have a negative 8. On the right side, you just have a 5. So this is not true. What do we say when it's not true? We say no solution. Everybody, no solution is the correct answer because negative 8 is not equal to 5. Now, if it would have said negative 8 is equal to negative 8, then it would be infinitely many solutions, IMS. But because it's not true, you say no, as in no solution. So I'm going to stop this video right here. We're supposed to do all the questions except for these that are canceled out, 11, 14, 15, 17. There's a video already uploaded on my YouTube channel. I'll put it on Edmodo later, explaining these other ones that you've missed or we haven't done. And I'll do a third video explaining the ones with decimals and fractions. Quiz this Friday, guys.